Hello and welcome. This is an honest historical analysis of the Illuminati. The Illuminati has been the subject of several popular conspiracy theories all over the world for a long time, most notable since the anti-Masonic movement in the 19th century in the United States. Though it is deemed crazy by many, it remains popular, and not just with conspiracy theorists or people who are deeply religious, but among common people as well. Even in nations that have nothing to do with Masonry or the Illuminati in their history. One of the most popular modern examples would be the famous novel Angels and Demons by Dan Brown, in which it was one of the central themes and even became the basis for several new conspiracy theories based upon it. All these theories are vastly varied, and the Illuminati is pretty much accused of everything, from using mind control, to ruling the world and its governments, to worshipping Satan and trying to wipe out Christianity, to being an alien group of reptiles who have infiltrated society and plan to enslave humanity. History begins. As the age of enlightenment rolled around, more and more secret societies associated with this movement emerged in Europe. One of the biggest, of course, was the Freemasons, now completely transformed. You see, the Freemasons, especially in England, were deeply influenced by the 17th century philosopher known as John Locke. Many modern ideas that we have today, such as secularism and religious tolerance, the right of the people to choose their government, the idea of human rights, were pioneered by him. One of the central tenets of Freemasonry was that you were meant to respect every member's religion and not impose your own beliefs on them. In fact, you are forbidden from discussing religion and politics. Another philosophy that deeply affected Freemasonry was Rosicrucianism. So, although the Freemasons were a group that believed in humanism, rational thought, and scientific progress, they also became a spiritual and even mystical group, influenced by philosophies like Hermeticism, Christian Gnosticism, and Judaic mysticism. So they pursued both spirituality and science. While Freemasonry in England was more heavily influenced by John Locke, Freemasonry in Europe became influenced by another radical philosopher of the 18th century called Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Rousseau, although deeply influenced himself by Locke, also disagreed with him on many things. Unlike Locke, Rousseau was more idealistic and more cynical of humanity and its scientific progress. His ideas would go on to influence Karl Marx, and so naturally, continental Freemasonry became much more radical and liberal than English Freemasonry. It did not have many of the restrictions that English Freemasonry had, such as not being able to discuss religion and politics. You could say that while English Freemasonry was slightly right-leaning, continental Freemasonry was a little more center-left. Of course, this should not be seen in the terms of capitalism and communism, since neither ideology really existed back then. Back then, the only ideology was aristocracy and monarchy. One group influenced by continental Masonry was born in Bavaria on 1st May 1776, called the Order of the Illuminati, or the Bavarian Illuminati, under the leadership of a radical thinker and philosopher called Adam Weishaupt from Germany. Weishaupt had previously joined the Masons in 1774, but left because he could not see eye to eye with them on many things. The Illuminati, in its early stages, was a lot like Freemasonry in many regards, with its membership having people of similar status to the Masons. They both also agreed on several things. They were against superstition, against religion having a strong influence on people's lives, and against the abuse of state power. But Weishaupt diverged from the Masons on one aspect. Weishaupt was staunchly opposed to spirituality and mysticism of any kind. He was a pure rationalist and sought to use the Illuminati to achieve this ideal goal of his. Now you might be thinking, well, that's not so bad. A lot of people are rationalists these days. Yes, except he was opposed to one very vital ideology that we hold dear today, and that is humanism and the freedom of thought. Sure, he was a rationalist, but he did not believe in what Immanuel Kant, the father of modern philosophy, believed, that people should be allowed to make use of their own reason and decide things for themselves, an idea long professed during the Enlightenment. In a way, it encouraged people not to believe what religion or the government told them was true and find out for themselves through evidence and experience. Ironically, Weishaupt did not believe this. He laid down detailed and elaborate instructions on how he wanted the members of the Illuminati to behave, and they were expected to be obedient and agree with him on all things. He believed enlightenment isn't found by a person, as Kant did. Instead, he believed it only took place in the guidance of another, more intelligent person. The Illuminati wanted to impose their ideal upon Europe and the world through whatever means possible. In fact, that is why they call themselves Illuminati, the illuminated. These illuminated would teach the unilluminated about rationality, that the unilluminated were incapable of doing this on their own. Weishaupt also used espionage to keep tabs on the activities of the members of the Illuminati. The people whom he preferred rose very quickly through the ranks. The Illuminati grew rapidly, attracting the attention of many intellectuals and even nobles. And this allowed Weishaupt to have direct control on high places such as courts and palaces. and Weishaupt essentially built a pan-continental network of information flowing directly to him. Interestingly, Weishaupt was not an atheist, and the Illuminati, though rationalist and against superstition, were not an atheistic organization, at least in the beginning. Of course, that doesn't mean they were secular like the Masons either. The members were expected to be Christians of a good character, and Jews and pagans were specifically excluded. Nonetheless, despite this restriction, they were not sympathetic towards religion either. Weishaupt was a strange man as far as religion is concerned. He was born Jewish, raised by the Jesuits, and then converted to Protestantism. Weishaupt was essentially an atheist, but he also wasn't. He hated the Jesuits. He hated any kind of spirituality. He hated Catholics and religious people. At the same time, he was strongly Protestant. The thing is, the Illuminati was a strictly political group, and religion and spirituality were not their main focus. Sure, they allowed only Christian Protestants to join, but at the same time, their goals, their actions were not guided by religion or spirituality the way it was for the Freemasons. It is important to mention at this point that though they had left leanings, they were not really communists. Yes, they believed in equality and egalitarianism, but they believed first and foremost in imposing their ideal of rationalism. You may call them radical liberals. It is the writings of Karl Marx that have influenced Marxists, communists, and socialists for a long time. At the time, Karl Marx had not been born yet. So naturally, the Illuminati were not influenced by the same things that, say, Vladimir Lenin or Trotsky were influenced by. A good representation of what they actually believed is perhaps a little speech that Weishaupt once gave, a little before the French Revolution. This is what he said: "Salvation does not lie where strong thrones are defended by swords, where the smoke of censers ascend to the heavens, or where thousands of strong men pace the rice fields of harvest. The revolution which is about to break will be sterile if it is not complete. Make of this what you will." Weishaupt had one close aide called Xavier von Zwack, who was a lawyer by profession and a member of the Illuminati. One day, Weishaupt had the brilliant idea of infiltrating the Freemasons in order to expand his knowledge of rituals and as well as influence on society. He also believed that this would allow him to recruit more members from the elite parts of society. The only problem was that to be a Freemason, you had to be spiritual. And Weishaupt was not. He hated spirituality. Atheists were not, and are still not, allowed to join Freemasonry. You had to profess belief in at least some deity, and it didn't matter which, whether it was some pagan god or Jehovah or the Christian god or something. But you had to profess belief in some deity. Regardless, in February 1777, Weishaupt joined the prudence of the Rite of Strict Observance, which was a Freemason lodge. After getting through the first 3 ranks, he realized that he had learned nothing of the higher degrees, and that he had wasted his time. At this point, Zwack decided that the Illuminati should, for the time being, be friendly towards the Masons and try to set up their own lodge, which they did, called the Theodore of Good Counsel in Bavaria. Weishaupt quickly filled it with Illuminati. Soon, the lodge would become independent of the Grand Lodge in Prussia, of which it was a subsidiary. Once it became independent, it began to spawn daughter lodges, and the Masons became a host for the Illuminati, which used it to grow and recruit, something like a parasite.